What would make a prince leave everything behind? What would make someone walk away from luxury, power, family, comfort, and a future throne? And what if that one decision changed not just one kingdom, but the spiritual history of Asia? More than 2,000 years ago, in the northern plains of India, a young man was born into privilege. He had protection. He had comfort. He had status. He had everything most people spend their lives trying to obtain. But then he saw something he could not forget. He saw that every human life, no matter how wealthy, no matter how powerful, no matter how protected, must face aging, sickness, loss, and death. And from that moment, the story of Siddhartha Gautama became much more than the story of one prince. It became the story of a question: why do human beings suffer? And is there a way to be free? This is the third episode in the story of India: empires, faith, and freedom. In the first episode, we went back to the Indus Valley civilization. In the second episode, we explored how India's great epics shaped imagination, morality, and identity. Now we turn to one of the most influential individuals ever born in India. A man remembered not as a conqueror, not as an emperor, and not as a lawgiver, but as the Buddha, the awakened one. His life began in a world of kingdoms, forests, teachers, merchants, farmers, warriors, and wandering seekers. It was a time when northern India was changing quickly. Cities were growing, trade was expanding, new political powers were rising along the Ganges plain. Old religious questions were being debated. What is the soul? What is duty? What happens after death? Why is life filled with suffering? And how should a human being live? Into this world, Siddhartha Gautama was born. The traditional stories say Siddhartha was born into the Shakya clan near the foothills of the Himalayas. His father was a ruler or chief. His family belonged to the warrior nobility. From the beginning, stories about him were told with a sense of destiny. Some said the child would become a great king. Others said he might become a spiritual teacher, a world renouncer. His father wanted the first destiny. He wanted his son to become a ruler, a strong leader, a man of power. So, Siddhartha was surrounded with comfort. The palace became a world designed to protect him from pain. Beautiful gardens, music, fine clothing, festivals, servants, pleasure. Every sign of suffering was kept away. No sickness, no aging, no death, no spiritual anxiety, only youth, beauty, and luxury. But no wall can keep reality outside forever. The story says that one day Siddhartha left the palace, and what he saw changed him. These moments are often remembered as the four sights. First, he saw an old person, a body bent by age, a face marked by time, a life moving toward decline. Siddhartha asked what this meant, and he was told that aging comes to everyone. Then he saw a sick person. He saw weakness, pain, and the fragility of the body. Again he asked what this meant, and he was told that sickness can come to anyone. Then he saw death, not as a distant idea, not as something hidden, but as a fact, the final ending that waits for every human being. And Siddhartha realized the palace had only delayed his meeting with truth. But then came the fourth sight. He saw a wandering ascetic, a seeker, someone who had left ordinary life in search of spiritual freedom. This person had no luxury, but he seemed calm, searching for something deeper. And Siddhartha began to wonder, if wealth cannot protect us from suffering, then what can? If power cannot stop aging, sickness, and death, then what is power really worth? The prince felt called to understand the human condition. Tradition remembers this moment as the Great Renunciation. Siddhartha left the palace. He left behind wealth, royal identity, and the life prepared for him. To modern ears, this sounds harsh, but renunciation was a known path. They entered forests and practiced discipline. Siddhartha joined this world of seekers. He cut his hair and exchanged royal clothing for the simple dress of a wandering ascetic. He became a question in human form. For years, Siddhartha studied. He learned deep states of meditation and concentration, but each time he reached a new level, he felt something was missing. Peaceful states came and went, but the root problem remained. He joined ascetics who believed that the body had to be conquered through extreme self-denial. He ate very little. He pushed himself to the edge of survival. He tried to overcome desire by crushing the body. In some traditional images, he becomes almost unrecognizable, a man reduced to bone and breath. But then he realized another truth. Luxury had not brought freedom, but extreme self-punishment had not brought freedom either. The palace had failed. The forest of harsh discipline had failed. There had to be another way. This realization became one of the most important ideas in Buddhism. The middle way. Not a life lost in indulgence, and not a life destroyed by extreme denial. A path of discipline, clarity, compassion, and balance. Siddhartha accepted food, and his strength returned. The other ascetics thought he had failed, but he was beginning to understand. Freedom had to come from seeing clearly, not from escaping or punishing life, but from understanding it. Siddhartha then sat beneath a tree, later remembered as the Bodhi tree. He made a vow. He would not rise until he had found the truth. Siddhartha sat beneath a tree, the Bodhi tree, and made a vow. He would not rise until he had found the truth. A single person in stillness. No army, no throne. Only attention, discipline, and courage. Traditional stories describe temptations and distractions appearing before him. Fear, desire, doubt, pride. The forces that pull the human mind away from clarity. But Siddhartha remained still. He watched, he understood, and by morning, he awakened. From that moment, he was no longer simply Siddhartha Gautama. He was the Buddha, the awakened one. What did he awaken to? The Buddha taught that life contains dukkha, suffering, unease, unsatisfactoriness. Even good things are unstable. Pleasure fades. The mind wants things to stay, but life does not stay. The problem is that human beings cling to things that are always changing. We cling to pleasure. We cling to identity. We cling to control. We cling to the idea that something temporary can give permanent security. And when reality refuses to obey that desire, we suffer. The Buddha's teaching is summarized in the Four Noble Truths. First, there is dukkha. Second, dukkha has a cause in craving and attachment. Third, there can be an end to dukkha. Fourth, there is a path to that freedom. This became the Noble Eightfold Path. Right understanding, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, right concentration. This was not just a belief system, it was a way of training life. How to think, how to speak, how to act, how to pay attention, how to live with compassion and discipline. One reason Buddhism became so powerful is that it spoke to a universal human problem. It did not begin with kings or priests. It began with something everyone understands. Life hurts, loss is real, and the mind is restless. Because everywhere Buddhism went, people already knew the problem. They knew aging, they knew illness, they knew grief, they knew fear, they knew the hunger for peace. The Buddha did not offer an empire of land, he offered a map of the human mind. At first, the Buddha hesitated. Could words express something so deep? But he decided to teach out of compassion. He went to Sarnath and gave his first teaching. This is the turning of the wheel of Dharma. The community grew around three jewels: the Buddha, teacher, the Dharma, teaching, and the Sangha, community. This was not just a private insight. It became a living community of monks, nuns, and lay followers. The Buddha traveled for decades. He spoke to rulers, merchants, and the poor. He spoke to the grieving, the confused, and the proud. And again he returned to the truth. Look at the mind and learn to let go. One famous story tells of a mother, Siddhartha Gautama, overwhelmed by loss. The Buddha asked her to find a mustard seed from a house where no one had experienced death. She found every home had known loss. Pain was not hers alone. This teaching made Buddhism emotionally powerful. It did not deny suffering. It asked people to see it clearly, with wisdom and compassion. It challenged the idea that birth alone determined spiritual worth. It created a new model of community built around practice. Its deepest claim was radical. The transformation of the mind matters more than the status of the body. A person becomes noble through action, wisdom, and compassion. For 45 years, the Buddha taught. Then, as all living beings do, he grew old. Near the end, he reminded followers to depend on the teaching, not his physical presence. Then the Buddha passed away, muted tones. This was not the end. It was the beginning of Buddhism as a world force. Teachings were preserved, monasteries formed, and Buddhism moved beyond India, across trade routes, seas, and mountain passes into all of Asia. A key figure was Emperor Ashoka. After a brutal war, he turned toward the Dharma. He supported institutions and sent missions. Ashoka helped Buddhism become a civilizational force far beyond its early heartland. In China, Buddhism had to be translated from one cultural world to another. Indian ideas became Chinese words. Meditation encountered Taoist language. Buddhism moved into Korea and Japan, changing each culture. In Southeast Asia, Buddhism shaped kingship, art, education, and daily life. Monks became teachers. Stories of the Buddha and his past lives became part of popular culture. In Tibet, Buddhism developed in conversation with local traditions and became a powerful spiritual and cultural system. Across Asia, Buddhism did not travel as one frozen package. It adapted, it translated, it absorbed, it debated, it inspired. The Buddha's power was different. He did not build an empire of land. He changed the questions people asked. Instead of wealth, he asked about desire. Instead of status, he asked about the ego and illusion. Buddhism is one of India's most important cultural gifts. It carried Indian ideas across Asia: karma, rebirth, compassion. It inspired architecture, poetry, and philosophy, and some of the greatest monuments in history. Modern life looks very different, with airports and artificial intelligence. But the human mind still struggles with fear, desire, and anxiety. The palace has changed shape, but the core question remains. The Buddha's answer was not that life is meaningless. It was not that the world should be hated. It was not that human feeling should be destroyed. His answer was more subtle. See clearly, understand impermanence, notice craving, practice compassion, train the mind, walk the path. Freedom is not found by running from reality. Freedom is found by seeing reality without illusion. This is why the image of the Buddha is so calm. Not because the world is easy, but because awakening means no longer being ruled by confusion. Buddhism declined in much of India itself. At the same time, it flourished beyond India, in Sri Lanka, in Tibet, in China, in Korea, in Japan, in Southeast Asia. This makes Buddhism one of the most remarkable examples of cultural transmission in world history. India was the birthplace. Asia became the great field of expansion. The world became the audience. Thanks for watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and ring the bell for more incredible stories from history. In the next episode, we continue the journey through the people and ideas that shaped this civilization.